Greetings, class. I'm here to answer our next quick right question. What do short-term and long-term success look like in conflicts? And so the first part of the question is actually unstated, which is what does success look like? What is success in conflict? Um, so there's three different primary ways that we want to address the terms of conflict. There's the substance of the conflict, the emotion of the conflict, and the process of the conflict. So the substantive concerns are about the material or economic interests, the measurable things in dispute. If if you're negotiating over the price of something, the substance is the actual dollar value. If there's a disagreement over an item that was damaged, it might be the cost of the repairs or who should make the repairs or what the value or the losses and the damage actually were. So that's the substance. Emotion is fairly self-explanatory, but again, emotion that's the feeling part of conflict. Sometimes it's not as clear cut as just being a dispute over dollar amounts or materials. Sometimes we might have emotions involved. This might be like anger or resentment or feelings about respect, and so forth. Uh, Sometimes, when something gets broken, it's actually a bigger detail because it relates to feelings of betrayal and so forth than it is about actually being the item. Right? If you make a promise that you won't do something, um, and then you actually do it, the person might not really care specifically about, was there a dollar amount loss or calculable loss there, but actually about you said you were going to do something and you didn't do it or you lied. Right? So there might be an emotional substance. And then there's the process uh, satisfaction. People frequently feel better when they have a chance to speak, have their voice get heard, feel acknowledged in something. Sometimes being part of the process is the only thing that matters for a person. They might not be heavily invested in the outcome. You can live with outcomes no matter which direction you go in, but you need to be heard in that. Um, and then the other detail, which I bring kind of into everything, is that there's a relationship dimension in almost all conflicts. Not all conflicts. Sometimes you literally have strangers who have a disagreement and they will never see each other again. And in that case, there's not really a whole lot of weight that needs to be put into it, but relationship satisfaction. If an argument you have today with a close friend means that you don't talk to each other for the next year, that might be a different concern than about anything that you were actually arguing about to begin with. So, short term success in conflict, right? You would quickly reach agreement, mutually beneficial, right? It's usually the best way to do that. We don't want to think about short term success in conflict as being able to say, I got what I wanted, when it involves having had to coerce the other person, convince the other person through, leverage that they should give in or give you what you want. But in some cases, that might also be the thing. You got what you want and you got it when you needed it. And you did deliver, the short term success. I wanted A and I got A. I just want to discourage coercive force because it's not durable. But we'll see more of that in long term success. Anyway, so short term success is you developed a plan, you were able to quickly initiate it, right? You and another party reached an agreement. Put it put it into effect and move on. Short term. Long-term success is actually what I want to encourage people to think more about in their conflicts, which is that, you know, if you win the battle but lose the war, right? People, I think most everyone has heard that expression before, right? Getting what you want now might have the benefits short term, but it might actually disadvantage you in the long run. Right? You might lose some of your relationship value, right? Like a close friend who has to cave into you all the time may actually not end up feeling like they're so close to you. And then that might impact whether or not they're willing to make the sacrifices a friend might make for another friend later on because they feel like they're not as close to you as they had previously felt. So there might be opportunity costs. Long-term success means that we reach agreements that are both mutually beneficial but also durable, and that they work towards long-term goals. So whatever it is that the transaction hinges on, if we work together, we reach collaborative solutions and follow through on that, right? And so the way we can assess that, right, which is probably the key here, is if we think back to our conflict management temperaments, the best way to have long-term success is probably to weigh things carefully between whether or not we're collaborating on the things that are most important, which means that collaboration means that my needs are met as well as the other party's needs. And if both parties are able to collaborate and agree that we're going to do all the things that both of us need collectively, on the times when that's important, collaboration can take more work. So if we can weigh successfully between collaborating when it's important and compromising where we don't have necessarily the resources to invest to meeting everybody's needs through a collaborative project. Or, right, the other angles that we need to always keep in mind. Sometimes it's probably just better to accommodate, right? Give the other party what they need because maybe their needs are more urgent or pressing. And conversely, sometimes we have to be aware that we need to compete, right? Part of the reason people sometimes need to compete is that sometimes they're right and the other person's wrong. Right? If we collaborate on something where the other person wants something and it just doesn't work, that's actually going to end up being like wasting your time working towards an outcome which is not producible. And if you know that in advance, sometimes you just have to figure out how to say it in a way that it translates. Conversely, sometimes you have to give something a shot and then let the other person see, right? See that what they wanted actually won't work out. And right, we can't always overstate our expertise. I mean, we frequently do say that we know things, but actually we say we know something when it's just an educated guess. So long-term success, collaborate when it's possible, collaborate when it's important, collaborate when it's viable, but also be able to see in a strategic sense the relationship between the outcome on the specific task and how it relates to other long-term goals like relationship satisfaction. If we have alignment for all these categories, we'll be able to get what we want on items as well as producing the outcomes in a more broad set of details that we can evaluate, right? And yeah, so those are both handy. Short term, right? Sometimes short term goals are most important because if we don't do something fast enough, right? If we delay, then we won't even be able to produce the outcome we want, right? Too little, too late sometimes just doesn't work, right? Closing the borders after the virus has already gotten to the US isn't going to do anything to really mitigate or impact the damages of the spread of the COVID virus, right? But if you work together early enough to make sure that that's not happening, right? And actually that's what appears to be happening now between the US, Mexico, and Canada, is that we've reached agreements to close down unnecessary traffic across the borders, which actually looks to benefit Canada and Mexico in very significant ways, given that the outbreak has spread much more as of, Friday the 20th, March 20th, and it's spread more here than it has in Mexico and Canada. So keeping infected American citizens from spreading the virus in the other countries presents serious benefit for those states. And, the American willingness to do so actually shows probably, you know, um, goodwill on our part. I'm not sure how that negotiation took place. It might have been something that Trump enacted, thinking that it would show that he was taking more steps to keep Americans safe, when in fact we're the ones that risk the greatest amount of spread, according to what we're seeing currently. But in any case, this is agreements between states, different parties, about what will happen. And the long-term goal here should be that we're meeting the needs about limiting the spread of the COVID virus, but at the same time, we're working together to showcase that we have an ability to work together. The more we work together, right, the more we can accomplish, right? Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.